Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to, is this our third? I think it's our third.
It is.
Our third database webinar, Simplex-IT. This is Bob Coppedge, and also got Doug Tombo here.
Hello, everyone.
Good job.
Thank you.
In any case, our third topic, we're going to be talking about corporate data review, because we think that's really absolutely critical for organizations that are looking to maintain a level of health for their corporate data. Again, corporate data being more your vertical applications like SQL databases and the like. But we thought we'd go over some conceptual designs or definitions about what that should be. So as always, we would love to hear feedback from you guys. So if you have questions, we basically just ask you to put them in your text windows and the like, as we're all muted except for us because we like talking. So I'll start off with some of the standard stuff, as we call it. This is the marketing side, so you can basically just stop listening if you want to, but these are all the partnerships that we have. Particularly of interest on the database side is SQL Sentry. That's the tool set that we use to monitor clients as far as their SQL health and performance and all that kind of fun stuff. And here's our advertisement about how Simplex-IT should be your IT department, because we're wonderful and fantastic and all that good fun stuff. But more importantly, we also have our Simplex-dba program, which Doug is heading up, as well as the Simplex PM project management, which Patty Smirk heads up. Those are both relatively new additions to Simplex-IT's bandwagon, although really we've been doing the Simplex-dba for just about since we started back in 2007. We just didn't have it under that kind of banner. As you know, Simplex-IT, we are very, very keen on educating and sharing our knowledge with people without trying to sell. And for that, we do 4 events a month. This is the 4th event of March. Here's our lineup for April. I would point out we actually have 2 database events, not just one. April 15th, if you don't want to think about taxes, instead you could join us at our luncheon hour and get free food out of it. And that's going to be talking about keeping corporate data healthy. Doug and I will be tag teaming on that, and then we'll be back here online April 28th, turning data into information. The event on the 15th, by the way, will also be live, so that'll be online as well as in person. If you signed up here through Eventbrite, you'll be getting email invitations to all of these. We also have our office webinar and our project management webinars going on as well. So hopefully you'll attend that. And by the way, at some point towards the end of this webinar, we will be doing something that will be giving away a free copy of Office 2013 Professional. So keep your ears open for whatever the heck it is we're going to be doing on that. So, all right. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug.
Very good. Thank you, Bob.
Yay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving up half an hour of your day to join us for our next data management webinar. This week's topic is particularly exciting because it's something that we can do easily ourselves and get great value from. It's also one of the most important steps that we could take in properly managing our data. Before we dig in, though, I want to ask people, who did last webinar's homework? For anyone that attended the database performance webinar, you were given homework. So just think back. Did you take the 10 minutes to do it? If you did, you get an A. If not, you get to stay after this webinar and do it. Okay? All right. What is a corporate data review? It is a process. It's a necessary process, an important process, but it's one where we look at the systems and the data that we have. We discover what we have because most of us don't know it off the top of our head. And most importantly, we take some notes about it. People like us, consultants, we love to refer to documentation. But in the end, documentation is just a polished version of notes. So you want to take notes while you do this. So what you want to do is you want to look around your company, mentally or visually, and just think about the processes that you deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and think about what system am I using to perform that task? What do we use to do our shipments? Many of us use QuickBooks for our accounting. Do we know where the data file is for that? How about our order entry system or CRM system? It's a process like that. And then the next step in the corporate data review is to assess the usefulness of the data. Well, I can tell you my CPA very much thinks QuickBooks data is useful. When he's doing tax returns this time of year, he definitely likes to see that type of data. It's in the right format, it's usable for what he's about to do. But only each of us on our own can assess the usefulness of our data for our particular needs. If we have purchased third-party applications, they work, but do they address our needs as far as the usefulness of the application and the usefulness of the data? These are the topics that we want to keep in mind as we go about exploring our data.
Now here's something that I find interesting in this, is that when someone initially thinks of, oh, there's a corporate data review, the immediate thought is, well, we're going to go dig into the databases, we're going to dig into the servers, we're going to look at this. But actually, what we're talking about is, let's start on the business side. Let's actually see what is the business doing that requires data in order for performing it. And in a lot of cases, we find that organizations, there's a disconnect between the business day-to-day operations or the business strategic planning and strategic processes and the actual applications that are collecting the data. And in a lot of cases, what ends up happening when somebody comes in to take a look and to review these things, they review the boxes, they review the servers. They don't actually review, very simply, what is the business doing? How is the business actually building or processing widgets? And that's a big part of what this step is.
Yes, it is. And once again, you see Bob's clear perspective on the business use of technology. Very much a recurring theme for Mr. Bob here. Step away from the details, look at the business impact of the technologies that you're looking at. Along the line of looking at our data, another reason that it's so important is the cloud. Okay, there are cloud offerings for nearly every application imaginable these days. Some people are using Salesforce for customer relationships management or Dynamics CRM. More than likely, that's hosted in the cloud. If you're using Office 365, like many Simplex customers are, that data is in the cloud. Even though it's not on our premise, we need to be aware of what application we're using and where the data is stored. Why? Because we need to make sure that it's protected.
And another example of this would be Microsoft Azure. If you're taking a look, or you've also got the similar thing over with Amazon services as well. It's getting to be easier and easier for organizations to actually implement SQL or Oracle or whatever, but to actually have their own data solutions that are cloud-based or integrated in a hybrid format. And the changes that have happened on Azure alone over the past 6 months, and we've been doing some work with this, are just incredible as far as how you can have either copies or replicas of your data both in the cloud and local, which if you think about it from the standpoint of organizations who are trying to give some set of or subset of their data, they want to give access to their clients. These services are really fantastic, and they're not terribly expensive, but you have to understand how you're deploying them and how you're configuring them, and that's part of this process.
Yes, and Bob brings up a very good point, which I'd like to use to reinforce mine. As vendors are helping us move our solutions to the cloud, they offer something called the hybrid model, where it's partially on-premise and partially in the cloud. If they do their job right, it is not easy to tell by looking at the user interface that we interact with where the data is. All the more reason to do a data review and get it documented. Okay, the reasons that we review our data are myriad and many, but here's a few of them. We need to know about our data in order to keep our applications running smoothly. We want to be able to take that next customer order. We want to be able to fulfill it. We don't want to ship it twice. Try to figure out opportunities to reuse data. Now, in my role as a DBA, I interact with many systems, and often the project that I'm engaged in is to move data from one system to another. Data reuse. It saves you from a lot of rework, and it also leverages your existing investment. So we always want to find opportunities for that. During our data review, we can become aware of what data needs secured or protected. Okay, people like myself are very big on that. Where's the data? Where's the backups? Who's allowed to get to it? How good is the last backup? These are critical things that if you don't do it properly have terrible consequences for your company. If you follow the news with any type of IT perspective, you'll notice that data breaches, unauthorized access to databases are just happening every week. Large retailers, large insurance companies, banks. Did anyone hear that the banks were hacked for over $1 billion? And that's what they're admitting. We don't want to be on that list. We want to be the good company that has our data secured and fully protected. Finally, a very good use of the corporate data review output is knowing what data issues we have so that we can put together a plan to address them. For example, we may find out that as we look at our order entry system, that there are key components missing in it, that with a little bit of attention we could get back in there, bringing even more business value to us. Okay, how do we enhance the usability of our data? Okay, we have 4 simple steps here. Of course, it's more complicated than that if we make it more complicated. But we like to stress the low stress approach to these things because really it's not that hard if you don't delve into the cumbersome details. There are times when you need to, but most of the times, and especially the perspective we're speaking now, the high level bird's eye view is going to give you a lot more value than getting caught up in the details. So the first step is to plan. I have a certain type of data. I want to use it in my company. I would like to use it for purpose X, purpose Y, and purpose Z. We do a little bit of planning. Then we take the next step, which is slightly more detailed, but not too much more. We analyze how we would go about using that data in another manner than it is right now. Hey, we have our customers over here, and we want to do a mailing off of Constant Contact. How do we get our customer data into Constant Contact? We would do a little bit of analysis there. Then we do it. We just get down to it and we give it a try. And that's going to help expose some of the more thorny issues that are involved with reusing your data. They can always be overcome. But a lot of times you don't know what you're in for until you get into it. And that's a lesson that we are well aware of every day from our practices. Finally, the most important step, and I cannot stress this enough, we must confirm. Everything looks good. Everything looks good everywhere. But if you don't confirm it, you don't know if it really is good. Verification is not a painstaking process. It can be done in moments. But we just have to approach things with the idea that IT is everywhere. IT is being performed on different systems, by different vendors, by different employees. And not all of us are on the same page because we all have different priorities throughout the day. Let's make sure we confirm what we think is happening.
And keep in mind, our approach for this presentation is not to show you the all the way down to the nth level of detail, the process, because quite honestly, that's where you get the professionals, oh gee whiz, like us, involved. But what we're saying is that there are some of these things that can be done relatively simply, and I don't want to say anecdotally on this level, but some of it can be done that way. And you're going to be more accurate than having nothing at all. And by reviewing and by the analysis and by the confirmation, you're going to make it better. So it's kind of something that the practice of the process improves the results of the process.
Absolutely, Bob. Okay, let's talk about a different way that we could do it. The painful way, the standard way. The way that most people end up doing it, and probably what most people think about when they hear phrases like data review. Okay, what typically happens is we lovingly refer to them as trouble tickets, but you have a problem with your system or your data. You can't get an order to print. You can't enter a new order. Who knows, maybe the database filled up, the disk drive on the server filled up. You have a technical issue which typically we would consider to be a trouble ticket. Okay? That is the worst time to be reviewing your data. But I can tell you, when people contact me and say that this isn't happening, the very first thing I need to know is what application and where is the data. That almost comes before the problem itself, because that is where we need to look in order to solve the problem. When you are neck deep in a problem, you're usually stressed out, especially if your boss is there saying, I thought. So that's no time to be reviewing the data and going, well, we put Salesforce in last month. We've got QuickBooks over here. Oh, that's right, we upgraded. No, we canceled that project. You can't be doing that. It's a very painful way. How about when we're upgrading an application or rolling out a new one? Let's take a quick look then and look at what other data we could integrate. That's not the worst approach there is, but you're not going to be able to give it sufficient thought with sufficient foresight. What we're going to do is we're going to make some quick decisions probably, and we're not going to get the maximum value that we could get, maybe not even good value, because just integrating contacts into another application might come back and bite us at another time. You may find that you have 3 employees maintaining contacts in this application and 11 maintaining it over there.
2 comments on this. One of the sayings that I like to use is the worst time to learn CPR is when someone's having a heart attack. So you don't want to do discovery during an emergency, because essentially there's any number of reasons why it's going to go poorly and very few reasons why it's going to go well. The second is baseline. If you don't have an understanding of how things were before this event, whether the event is a problem or the event is a rollout or an upgrade, if you don't have a baseline for how it was before the problem, then you don't know what the impact of that change was. In which case you're learning all the wrong things at all the wrong time. So this is a process that is best done when the seas are calm.
You gotta love Bob's euphemisms here, don't you? Okay, how about a much better way? A way that you can do yourself, the good old DIY, do-it-yourself approach. Start right with that top phrase right there. Approach it as a low-stress project. In fact, I'm hoping some of you attendees are actually doing this as we speak. Just on a piece of paper, write out what your applications are. Then take the next step and figure out where the data is. Things like that. My thought is that if you were to put 30 minutes a day in just for one solid week, that you would have the good foundation for corporate data review. Another way to do it is with help from professionals such as ourselves. And what we can bring to bear on this situation is various discovery tools. Now, discovery tools are really just programs that are specific to specific environments. For example, we have tools, and many others do. We don't have a lock on good ideas. Many people use tools to inventory all the systems on your network, to figure out all the databases on your network. You know, these are tools that can speed up the process, but only if you're up to speed with them. You can't really just download one and then all of a sudden you have your corporate data review done, because there's always assumptions and nuances behind the scenes. That's where the third party can help you with that, because if it's one of their standard tools, they'll know how to work around the nuances. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to get an inventory of your Microsoft SQL servers on your network. It is very difficult to do through a program. Most discovery programs cannot accurately detect all the SQL instances that you have on site. Often it takes just going, room to room and looking for servers. That's painful. Okay, so let's say that we went through the process that we're prescribing here. What do we have as a deliverable at the end of the process? We put our 30 minutes a week in, Bob. All right, I missed lunch. Now what is it you're looking for me for? So what do we have? We have a list of applications. And surprisingly, they're very common through most companies. Microsoft Office. But let's break that down one more step. Which pieces, which components of Office do we use? Well, we use Word. For what? Well, we use it for correspondence. Okay, how about Excel? Yes, we use Excel. What do we use it for? Well, we use it for proposals. Very good. Now we're getting there. Then, if we've taken a step and figured out where the data is, and the data is a full database system like Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, then we want to start looking at the databases that we have. Where are our orders? Where are our customers? Are they in the same database? So make a list of the applications and the data, and if it's a database, try to figure out what manufacturer database that it is. Okay, where is it? Where is the data? Is it in the cloud? Who is your provider? Where are their data centers? I know everybody thinks that we don't need to know where things are if they're outside of our door. I suggest that we need to know it now more than ever. Now, Microsoft is not going to go under. Amazon is not going to go under. But if you're using a small provider, which is the kind I like to know the person that I'm doing business with. He may have 2 racks of servers in one building with one line going into it. We need to know that. Because if he goes out of business, we have to get our data back in time. That might mean driving there. Now with Microsoft, you don't really have that problem. They have many data centers all throughout the earth. What we really have to look out for is global events, and I don't see any of those coming this week. Okay, not only do we need to know where it is, we need to know how we get to it and who's allowed to get to it. Keep in mind, if it's in the cloud, we have far less control over securing our own. It might be that there's one account that's used, or it could be that there's individual accounts. We need to know those things. Okay, so we have our data, we have our applications. How are we using it? On a daily basis, what we consider to be operations for our business, how are we using the data? Are we using the PeopleSoft data just for managing employee benefits? Are we using the Salesforce data just for customer leads? Or is it actually order tracking as well? We need to know that. Strategic. What are we doing with the reports that come out of our systems? Is anybody reviewing them? Because there's some very nice ones right over here. What tools do we use to manage our business? More than likely, they are based on data. So we need to know how the data comes in the company, where it resides, how it's processed, ultimately how it's rolled up and presented to management. They're the people that fund our ability to have this data, and they're the ones whose company will go under if the data is mismanaged. Okay, finally, what are the shortcomings in our data? Is it slow? That's pretty common, and it's definitely fixable. Is there accuracy problems with it? Far too many systems have accuracy problems. Integrity. Do we have partial records? Do we have only part of a name in there? Do we have a bad part number in an order? How did it get there? These are the kind of things that our corporate data review will help us to understand.
And keep in mind that on this, you're not necessarily adding, you don't have to be 100% complete. It's almost impossible to do so. So the issue is that this can be an ongoing annual, semi-annual review process that you can go through.
Right. And back on one of the earlier slides, it was referred to as a process. Bob's very right on that, as usual. It's an ongoing process. And each time we put a decreasing quantity of time into it and get ever-increasing value out of it because we're sharpening our pencil at that point. Okay, let's look at the big elephants in the room, the obvious issues that our corporate data review is going to uncover for us. You guys need to be serious about backups. You need to know what your backup strategy is. That's different than your disaster recovery, your business continuity process. On a day-to-day operational basis, what's backing up my data? Where's it putting it? How frequently? What process do we need to go through to recover our data? Many of us back up to the cloud. How much data do we have in the cloud? What if our main server failed today? How long would it take for us to get back? These are things that we need to know. Have we tested our backups? Have we tested a restore? You must do that. Most backups are not quite as usable as we think they are. We have to prove that they are usable and then adjust settings as needed.
To give you an idea, and this is as much on the Simplex-IT side as the Simplex-dba, but we're probably working with about 50, that's 50 companies at this point with ongoing monitoring of their networks and the like. And I would say easily one half of them, when they first engaged Simplex-IT, could not answer the question, how often do you back up and are they backed up successfully? They literally did not know the answer to that question. And often it was, well, I don't know what we're backing up, but I assume they're working. And probably a good quarter to half of those guys, it turned out, no, they weren't getting backed up what they thought were getting backed up, and it wasn't working as seamlessly as they thought.
Absolutely. It's far too common and it's frightening. And please, understand there is no set it and forget it backup solution out here. Yes, many of the devices that I personally own have a button, a quick backup button that you could hit, but that is not proper backup management. That's a quickie backup. That's for when I don't want to think too hard about it and I want some assurance. We're talking about more assurance than that, actually knowing that our backups have gone up when they should and that they're usable the way we expect them to be. Okay, security, on-premise or in the cloud, very important. Many people don't give too much thought to security and we just rely on how it is now. We need to focus on that a little bit more and become aware of it, because security has ramifications. People could expose data in a way that doesn't help our business, could let our competitors see our bids. We definitely don't want anything of that. So the big question is, are we monitoring our security? Do we know who's logging into our systems? Do we know who accessed that confidential report? It's not that hard to figure out, but most of us couldn't answer those questions. Okay, we have some upcoming webinars that I'm hoping people can take time to attend. We have a luncheon hour coming up on the 15th, as Bob talked about. You could see it on the web, or you could attend us for a free meal, always tasty food, and that's on keeping our corporate data healthy, the next step in the process of managing our data. And then on the 28th, we'll have our next webinar, which will be on turning our data into information. They are distinctly different topics. Data is not information. Information is not data, but there's a lot of overlap between them as well. Okay, so for this webinar's homework assignment, I am asking everyone to today, before you get up from the webinar, to list the applications that you are aware of your company using just off the top of your head. No research. What can you pull out right now?
So here, I'll sweeten the pot on that one. If the first person who sends Doug an email with any kind of comment as to any kind of comment as to how you would implement some kind of corporate data review, we'll send you a copy of Office Professional 2013. How's that?
All right. That is a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Yay.
It's about a $600 value, and you're licensed forever.
Yeah, it's Doug@simplex-it.com is his email address.
Okay, in closing, let's do a quick review. Your corporate data is a valuable asset. To get the maximum value out of it, you need to know, not guess, know, and understand it. Corporate data review is the starting point for getting a grip on it all. You can do it yourself. The approach we recommend is a casual and advanced approach, or you could call in the pros to assist. Simplex-dba can help. Please give us a call if you have any questions, comments, or would like to talk about a corporate data review.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for attending, everyone. Appreciate your time. Until next time, this is Doug and Bob checking out.
Yay.